mentioned earlier about helping your clients create the next best thing, and I was wondering for each of you, looking forward, what's the next best thing that's percolating in your mind for your own business?
Well, for me, we have established our business so it's generational. So we have people in their 20s working with us. The oldest person working with us is a woman who's 76 years old. She's a lawyer and a PhD. She's from the student affairs profession, and she's our go-to person for overload and referencing. She's also a cancer survivor. So what we do is, as we develop a specialty, and this consultant is in charge of that, then when they develop that, they bring in someone more junior and bring them up to speed. Then they bring in someone more junior and bring them up to speed. So it's a generational approach, so that when I drop dead in the airport, probably the Atlanta airport, the business will sustain itself. So all the people we've had involved who are paying their mortgages will be able to continue paying their mortgages. So that's the succession planning that we do.
Well, I guess two ways to approach that. First is what's the hot topic now? What is everyone funding? What they're funding is the implementation of behavioral health care in physical medicine. That's what the big takeaway from Obamacare is, whatever version of it, and we all know Obamacare was based on Romney's care plan. But anyway, no matter how it's going to work, what has to happen is that we have to do behavioral health care for people with physical illnesses. We're working with people who have asthma, working with kids who have asthma, around changing lifestyle. An amazing difference on asthma if you can get parents to smoke outside the house. Why it took a while to figure that out, I don't know. But congestive heart failure, working with so many different populations. When you really look at the statistics, the cost that healthcare is absorbing, that really goes back to behavioral care. So somebody has diabetes, obviously their problem is a medical problem, but they have to change their lifestyle. We know how to help people change lifestyle. We learned to do that when we learned how to do recovery from substance abuse. And it's really the same process. If you're going to live a different lifestyle, doesn't matter if it's substance abuse or if it's eating fried foods or if it's maintaining medication regimens. So the big field for the next 10 years is going to be bringing behavioral health care right in primary care's office. It's having relationships with primary care providers and health centers. It's being co-located with them. It's getting projects going that we can reduce emergency visits. Amazing percentage of emergency visits really go back to behavioral health care. And case management, the other part of that, of course, is case management. So that's the big project for the next 10 years in terms of behavioral health care. Having said that, there's stuff we want to do, and sometimes you just got to package it a little differently. I think career counseling is hugely important, and it's really not well supported. There's no national federal funding program that does that. Some states, most states, have federal funds to get people jobs, but they're not really getting people careers. So I know that, and I'm constantly looking for new ways of convincing people that this is medically necessary, which I believe it is. So I just had a new project, a pilot project with our juvenile justice system, and what they're finding is that these kids wind up back in the system because they don't have any careers to think about. And frankly, getting careers for these guys and women is not as easy as it might be. But I've convinced them that this is something that's necessary for them, and I've convinced Medicaid that they should pay for it because it's going to reduce all sorts of things. So sometimes it's really going after what's the hot topic, and sometimes it's knowing what you really want and figuring out a way to twist it enough to fit in.
Well, those are some good ideas. I think I might try to implement some. For me, again, I constantly have, as someone has said to me, if you throw 5 balls in the air, you have a good chance of catching one. And that's kind of how I work on planning for the future. I'm always throwing balls in the air. I mentioned to you that we're looking at the possibility of starting another office in Atlanta. And just to show you how we operate, the reason that opened itself up, I have a 9-year-old granddaughter who has Philadelphia positive leukemia, which is a complicated case of leukemia. And she has to go up to Eggleston Children's Hospital on a regular basis. And I go up there with her sometime and spend a week up there with her and reunited with some of the people I know up that way. Started doing some consulting for a couple of large churches who have counseling centers in their churches. Led into some consulting with a couple of psychologists who want to know some business ideas. That led to some opportunities with disability. So that might be the next thing. One of the things that I'm working on that if you have the opportunity, if you can help me with this, it would be very beneficial. We keep trying to hire Dr. Peterson to come up and be our director of training because there is a lack of CEU opportunities in South Georgia unless we come down here. And so we've said, well, let's do that. That's a need. Let's do it. And now, who does that well? And so we're always what I think probably the next best thing is that how you put it? Depends on who I find that I really am impressed with. I'll bring them on, and whatever they do, that's what we'll do next. But I like those ideas, and I'm going to start investigating what we need to do to go into what Peter was talking about.